All right, everyone, welcome back. William Kirk with Washington Gun Law. Before we get to this guy right here, I want to remind everyone that these interviews are being brought to us by the good folks over at Right to Bear, and a big, huge thanks to all the guys at Forge Relations for the ones working behind the camera and getting us all set up. Look who I got here. It's Braden Langley with Langley Outdoor Academies.
That is me.
What's up, brother?
Not much, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Now, listen, I'm a bit of a fanboy. I got to be honest with you. No, this is the truth. This is the truth. If you actually watch it's on my YouTube feed, you will see that the things I most frequently watch is people blowing glass.
Which is remarkably relaxing.
It is very relaxing.
Okay.
I even watch the people that make the hard candy. Okay,
that's a bit much.
I find it to be very, so I don't watch a lot of other gun tubers.
Yeah.
But I do watch you. And I
respect
watch
that.
You. No, I watch you because, and I've said this to you privately, I think you have a very authentic and genuine way of presenting your material. I think you are incredibly credible as a content creator, and I think that's why you have developed such a huge platform. And I think you should be proud of that,
dude,
man.
That's like you make a man cry on camera.
Well, let's see.
That's amazing.
Well, but let's talk about Langley Outdoor Academies. Okay. First of all, why don't you tell me a little bit about who's Braden Langley, and has Braden Langley always been a gun guy, or is this something you found later in life, or where'd you find your passion for this?
So that's actually the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Right. So most gun guys, right? Most gun tubers, all of them. Guns throughout their entire career, from the time that they were walking.
Had one in my crib.
Had one in my crib all day long, right?
Right.
And that, total respect, love it.
Yeah.
That's not my story, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
So my story, the same way in those stories, gun guys had guns in their cribs, I had politics in my cribs.
Okay.
Right, so in my crib. So my mom, they would call me a Rush baby, right? So I was always listening to Rush Limbaugh from the time that I remember in the car all the way up until he died. I mean, literally, my whole childhood was consuming politics. Both my parents really loved it.
Okay.
It was,
they weren't politicians or didn't work for government or anything. They just were consumers of politics.
They loved the country, they loved the politics, and they loved paying attention to know what was going on.
Where'd you grow up?
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta, okay.
Yeah. So this is before Atlanta became a really large metropolitan area, and it kind of flirted with the purple. This was a solid red state in Georgia at this point in time. So it was a very conservative state, and there was a lot of reinforcement of those same values that kind of tend to lean towards a red state.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I got very versed, because it was like, seriously, it was 6-8 hours a day. It was either the TV was on with it or Rush Limbaugh was on in the car. It was
conservatism through osmosis.
Full saturation.
Yeah.
And you start to pick up patterns, and you start to understand things that are nuanced around the entire...
These core principles.
The core principles,
yeah.
But also the way they would go about doing them, right? Like they would say this one thing, and then 6 weeks later they would do a different thing, and it was all about the nuance of how they said it, and I find that interesting. Mm-hmm. I find that very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my backstory. Now, guns, my parents weren't big into guns, but my grandfather taught me and gave me some guns when I was 16, 18.
So you a Georgia guy also?
Yes.
Okay.
Older South, kind of Savannah, like, that
Sounds
kind
of cool,
yeah,
though.
It's a neat history.
Is he still around?
He's not.
He's gone now.
He's not.
Okay.
He's gone. But that introduction was fascinating to me. And what I really got drawn into was a lot more of the self-reliance side of it. Like, for example, do I defend my own home? Do I defend my own family? Can I hunt? Can I provide for my own family? Do I just shoot for fun? How good am I at shooting? And right, you crack that open, and you just start falling down
Pandora's
box, and it's expensive and all these things, right? And that's kind of my backstory into the gun side. And so, fun fact, and this is actually, you guys, I don't know if I talk about this a lot on my channel. My channel is called Langley Outdoors Academy for a very specific reason.
Well, that was a question I was going to ask you, so let's great segue.
And it's not because I talk about politics outside. So my channel started as Langley Firearms Academy because I was a firearms instructor. I worked at a gun range.
Okay.
I found out very quickly, because this was about 8 to 10 years ago, that YouTube does not like the word firearm.
No,
they do not like
gun.
that word anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, what's an adjacent space that I can basically go around that block? Because at the time, it was a very hard block.
Yeah.
And I said Langley Outdoor Academy. So I kept the familiar cadence and the familiar framing, but I changed the word firearm to outdoor. Biden gets elected. Or let's just say, Biden gets inaugurated.
He gets put into the White House.
He gets inaugurated.
We can
say that, right? So,
well, he ain't there anymore, so yeah, we can.
He's not. It's over. He fell down the stairs on the way out. I loved every second of it. All right. So, God, that was a thing. So for 4 years, right at the beginning of that, I said, you know what, I want to get this out. And remember the history of politics. I really love politics. I want to be with my viewers. I want to say, hey, we're in this together. We can fight this. And so I said, I'll do one video a day.
Yeah.
Talking about politics.
Yeah.
And my wife says, well, actually, originally it wasn't politics. Originally it was gun stuff. But then I realized very quickly I couldn't do that.
Well, you can't talk about guns without getting into politics.
It's not possible.
You just can't.
Right. And so I very quickly got to the point where I was like, this is hard. When you don't have that content stream and you can't always go to a gun range and you can't, I got to supplement. Biden gets inaugurated. They start introducing really stupid bills.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Right. And so there was an audience response. And I said, well, okay, we might have a niche here. And using the political background, using the gun world stuff that I knew physical, like the physical pieces of it, and the clientele of our space, I said, there's something here, because there was a response.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that's how I became a political commentator in the gun space, fighting for freedom on the 2A, never outdoors, with the name outdoors.
And it was a great workaround. You know what? Mark Smith was just here, and that's why he came up with 4 Boxes Diner.
Oh, really?
The name was he didn't want anything. He didn't want Google knowing it all. So I totally screwed up. I named mine Washington Gun Law. I totally effed that up.
It's a blessing and a curse. You're very directly targeted, but you're also very directly targeted.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pro and a con,
exactly.
right?
Well, let me ask you this: how frequently do you have to play the little game of catch cat and mouse with Google when you're doing your videos? You have to deal with that much?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, like once you start to understand where the quicksand is, and once you understand the framing, you start to develop a kind of a sixth sense of like, okay, maybe I'll phrase this in a little bit different way, so you guys know what I'm referencing, and it's on the screen on a document, but I'm not going to dive too deep into that.
Well, the big one I did, like I was out in Idaho Falls last week at this amazing gun store out in Idaho Falls. Some of the biggest. They can arm a small country at this place, and they wanted me to shoot videos from their showroom floor.
Nope.
Right?
No, I won't.
And I was like, I would love to also, but you know who won't love that is the folks at Google.
You see those silhouettes in the background? Yeah, they have AI that just scans the entire thing all the time.
And then you can put it in for manual review, and then 5 days later they get back to you, and at that point the story's stale, and you might as well just not input the damn video.
Story's stale, and it's like, oh, well, what was the point? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, so there's certain little nuances that you learn from doing it. It's like, because it's an amazingly cool backdrop.
It is.
But if it's counterproductive to what you're trying to do, you have to jump through a hoop sometime, which is stupid, in order to achieve the goal that you're chasing.
Well, and I'll tell you where it gets tricky on me is, let's say I'm doing something like on the pistol brace rule or something like that, and I need to show a pistol brace so that people understand how the law applies to that.
Right.
I throw the image up there, and now I'm in Google jail.
You're in Google jail.
I'm in Google jail, and no one's going to bail me out for a few days.
Dude, that's exactly right. It is truly idiotic.
You're no longer in Georgia.
No.
You felt that Georgia was getting a little too blue.
A little too purple.
So you and I obviously have different standards.
We do. You enjoy punishment.
Yeah, I do. I'm a masochist.
You're a masochist.
You're a sadist, I'm a masochist.
And I just straight up jumped down to Florida because I was like,
so you're in Florida now.
I heard DeSantis is cool.
You like it down there?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
It's fantastic.
It's incredible.
Whereabouts are you in Florida?
So I'm just I'm east of Pensacola. I'm between Pensacola and Destin.
Okay.
In that area.
Family love it?
Oh yeah.
You got younger kids?
Middle, like
teenagers,
almost teenage, preteens.
Preteens.
Yeah.
So they're doing those schools down there.
They're doing the schools are great. I'm surrounded by tons of military bases, so there's that influence, and I'm like, okay,
your people.
This is the spot.
This is your people.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think the next 4 years is going to look like? You know, we got President Trump back in the White House.
Yeah.
I think Pam Bondi is guaranteed to be our Attorney General.
I think it would be a fool's errand to think she's not.
Especially after she, I think, did very well at her hearings. What's the land, the kind of the lay of the land going to look like, you think, for us for the next 4 years?
You know, it's such an interesting question. Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating because unlike most politicians where you kind of know which way it's going to go, Trump is not a traditional politician by any means.
Well, let's face it, even though he's a conservative, he's not a traditional gun guy either because he's a New Yorker.
Correct.
And there ain't no gun guys that come from New York.
There's a lot of influence, which makes this kind of a wild card, right? For example, I mean, if we just go very high level, you just mentioned one person's a little contentious with the gun world, Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Like,
Not the best history.
Not the best history on red flag laws, on purchase age limits. Like, there's lots of stuff that's really concerning.
Yeah.
And then if you pair that with Donald Trump in the first term, where it was flirting with red flag laws suggested by Pam Bondi.
Well, yeah, and, you know, to be real critical, this ATF playbook of, hey, let's just write a new rule and change the meaning of everything, and then turn people from lawful, responsible citizens to criminals overnight. That was a playbook that was developed in the Trump administration with the bump stock ban.
No, it was 100%.
Yeah, because Obama never did it.
No.
Talked about it, but never did it.
He flirted with it.
And then that playbook got shoved down our throats time and time and time again during the last 4 years. I was talking to Mark Smith about it. He really thinks that the best thing that ever happened to Trump was losing in 2020 and really kind of having to be able to do a soul search and come back and reinvent himself. Do you think that we're going to be dealing, that guys like you and I are going to be doing videos in the next 4 years talking about some BS ATF rule?
I'll be honest, I don't think so.
I don't either.
I mean, on my honest take on that, and kind of going back to what's it's going to bring in the next several years, I don't think it's going to be a similar experience where at the bump stock, because he got significantly lambasted for that.
He did.
And he did lay down a groundwork, to your point, which was followed through with the Biden administration, which was completely manipulated by Merrick Garland and Steve Dettelbach to the fullest use of their law, of their interpretations. I don't think he's going to do that again.
No, I don't. Yeah.
I think what we're more likely going to see is, and honestly, the most interesting thing to me is going to be the pushes for legislation around like things like national concealed carry reciprocity. Because we both know in what we do, there's a game that's being played, and you have to get to 60 senators.
Yeah.
You're probably at about 51 or 52 right now.
Yep, they got some ground to make up.
They got some ground to make up just by the basis. That's the exact same thing that prevented assault weapons ban from being introduced in the Senate under Biden is going to be the obstacle here. So is there gamesmanship? Is there political horse trading? Is there favors that go back and forth? I mean,
Well, yeah, and my concern is for the viewer out there is that if they could actually get a bill that you could get 60 votes on, it's going to be in a version that is much different than the original bill.
Oh, absolutely. That's how it works.
It's going to be 21 and over. Absolutely positively going to have a concealed carry license from your home state. It's going to get watered down before you can get all those votes, and then
100.
people are going to be sitting there going, well, that's not what we want.
So now you bring up such an amazing point. This is such an incredible point, and I really hope that this is part of the conversation when this happens, because it's not an if, it's a when.
Right.
You start so far down the road where you want, and you're going to end up a lot further than you want. No one's going to be happy, and we call that compromise.
That's right.
Right?
Used to be, now it's a dirty word, but back in the day, that's how government was run.
That's how it's supposed to. Right?
Yeah.
So the big concern for me in these bills is not that we're going to give something away, because we have to give something away. I mean, that's
how the game's played.
Just like they have to give something away.
Right.
They're going to move from not ever over my dead body to, well, maybe if we do this, and then they start moving closer.
Yep.
And then it's like, give up this thing, and then we'll do, I mean, that's how it works, right there in the middle. I think the big concern that you're going to have is poison pills that are put in by people like a Susan Collins or a John Cornyn, or, that's going to be the problem. And the poison pills would be things like you're talking about. Age restrictions, mandated licensure, or a federal licensure, an increased background check to get that license.
Yeah, an enhanced background check so that you could be nationally qualified and all this crap.
Or certain training requirements to get this special right, but that's the stuff that you have to watch out for. It's not, it will never pass, because that's not the right way to look at these things. It's what is happening in the sausage making to get us where we want to go.
Yeah.
The starting point's fantastic. I love the starting point. Where do we go from there?
Yeah.
I'll be watching. I think we're going to cover a lot of that.
Well, I tell you where I think you and I are going to be covering a lot of things is I think that, when a ship starts sinking, all the rats run to the dry places. And what's going to happen is especially because if we got this on the horizon, this Snope case or this Ocean State case that's coming up, you're going to see a lot of states be like, we got very limited time to inflict our misery upon our citizens.
Yep, lean in.
We got to do it.
Right, lean in.
Right, just do it.
That's the interesting point, because if they do that, they're just going to further solidify their fate.
Yes.
So that's the interesting thing that when I'm sure you hear about. I don't know if you do a lot of lives. I know you do a lot of pre-recorded.
Yeah, I do most of my pre-recorded.
So in a lot of my lives, a lot of the comments will come in, because I love doing lives with people. Hey, they're going to take assault weapon ban, or they're going to do assault bans here, or I'm so sick of this. And it's rightfully so to be sick of it, right? It's an infringement, and you're the bully. You're the punching bag.
Yep.
The bullies are just punching you because you're the low-hanging fruit in the Second Amendment space. But the more that they do it, the more they bring attention to what they're doing. And that's the thing. Like you guys in Washington, you guys are pummeled. But more lawsuits are coming out of Washington because of those actions. Like the things that we were just talking about downstairs with the with the Colorado Almost a Safe Act, effectively for Colorado.
Yeah, the Go Safe Act in Colorado,
it's going to lead to more lawsuits. All of these things, they're going too far and they're extending too far.
Yeah.
And the courts are going to bring them back into those buckets, into those confines. But the problem is, for them, they can't ever go there again if they exhaust it.
No.
So if they push too hard...
It's a door that only swings one way.
Exactly right.
Yeah, you're right.
And the second that they go too far, like the Snopes case, or Snope case.
Snope, yeah.
If they go against that assault weapons ban and they rule against it, I mean, I'll be honest with you, even if they accept it this term, they're done. The gun controllers are done.
Their doomsday scenario is that Snope and Ocean State get accepted, consolidated and accepted.
100%. That is...
They will throw themselves off bridges if that happens.
There are no words to explain how big that would be. Because at that point, you have nothing else to fundraise their entire operation on.
No, it's the ultimate battle royale that needs to occur here, because this is a thing of banning common platforms and accessories related to firearms. Case law we thought was pretty clear. You seem to understand it. I seem to understand it. State legislators don't.
Yeah, weird.
But it is the final battle royale that once that's done, I don't know how they fundraise.
Oh, I honestly, so kind of, it's fun to me. It's like game theory, like this, like little game theory, like where do they go if this?
3D chess.
4D, 8D chess, Trump chess, whatever you want to call it. He stepped on a bug and that made China fold. Okay.
Yeah, whatever works.
Whatever. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. That's where it gets really, really interesting, is where does it go after that?
You want to know what my theory is?
You tell. I got one, and then you tell me yours. Okay.
My theory is that the day that we get the ruling that you cannot ban common firearms or common use, right? We're out. You're going to start seeing what's called Snope response bills.
Okay.
And here's the point I'm talking about.
Which would be like a classification of a bill, a Snope response bill.
What they're going to do is they're going to work feverishly to work end arounds around constitutional precedent.
Absolutely.
Why do I say that? Because there were 4 states that actually had bills that were called Bruin response bills.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
That's true.
Now, here's what makes it so disgusting. Do you know the case of Hodges v. Obergefell?
I have heard that case,
yeah, you have.
But I do not. I could not cite
That's
it.
right. Well, no, you don't, because you don't talk about this stuff. Hodges v. Obergefell was the case that okayed homosexual marriage in the United States as a constitutional
that's
right.
why it reminds. That's why.
Okay. So yeah, you don't cover that topic on your channel. I don't cover it either much. But here's the deal: there were clearly some states that were not in support of allowing homosexual couples to marry.
Right.
Okay. There were very red states that were dead set against it. The day that case law came down, I didn't see any of those states writing Hodges response bills.
Right.
They just took it
and
said, well, it's the law of the land, and here we go. Here's your marriage license, and if you want the marriage of misery, knock yourself out. Join the club.
By the way, amazing turn of phrase. They just took it. I really love how you just slid that in there.
Had to make sure that someone didn't hear that. What's your theory, though?
Not that. So my theory is they're going to lean hard into red flag laws and
places
in sensitive places. Yeah. So they're going to hit really, really hard on the safety aspect, and they're going to leverage that to bring more bills forward with more ability to disarm people safe. All the buzzwords. That's what I think they lean into that real heavy.
That's a good point, because when you take a look at. Because what I try to do is I always try to take something really complicated and break it down into the simplest thing.
Yeah.
And gun laws basically ban one of 3 things: people, places, or things.
100%.
That's it. Okay? And a Snope ruling would really, really damage the things.
Oh, absolutely.
They have a lot less things to ban.
Yeah.
But the people and places. That's where all the energy goes, right?
It's the game.
Yeah.
If this road shuts,
it's a whack-a-mole.
It's a whack-a-mole. So now we go over here, and that's honestly, not to be a plug for what we do, but that's why it's so important that everyone's always involved, because it's never going to be a one-shot kill.
No, and it's a moving target all the time.
Right.
They will reinvent themselves.
They are well-funded. They are well-organized. They are well incentivized. I mean, effectively, and this is actually...
And with naive masses that are willing to follow, which makes the job easier for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, this is an interesting point that we can kind of briefly touch on. You know what's interesting that to me that I observed, the change in the gun control side of the argument?
What's that?
They are now shifting from a grassroots, we want safety, into a full-on corporate model. And it's really interesting to see, because that brings advantages for them, but it also brings disadvantages for them. And for example, they are like Bloomberg has Everytown for Gun Safety, right?
Yeah.
Everytown for Gun Safety is a full-on corporation.
Oh yeah.
They have director positions, manager positions, CEO positions, SVP. Well, you know what those come with? Overhead.
A lot of it.
A lot of overhead.
Lot
so
of it.
where's that money coming from? Are there grants coming from states? Are there grants coming from the federal government? Because now they have the overhead and the liabilities, they can't stop. It's not grassroots anymore, which allows you the flexibility to flex in and out of a position and a challenge.
Allows you to reinvent your message if
Correct.
need be too.
But corporations, you can't do that.
It's like turning around a battleship.
Exactly. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
And that's where it's truly fascinating, because Giffords is doing the same thing. Now, Everytown is by far the most egregious example of this, the most corporate, but Giffords is doing the same thing. They've got their own directors of everything. I think her name's Emma Brown for Giffords. You know, Shannon Watts has done it with Moms Demand Action.
Oh my God.
But they're all doing the exact same growth model. And what's really funny about the entire thing, I find it funny, they're trying to get in front of something by saying and claiming it's safety and it's all about something bigger than themselves, while they're still pursuing their own careers inside this. I really find it fascinating that the ambition of humans cannot get out of this. I just truly find it fascinating. I just can't get enough of that stuff. Huh, interesting.
Well, listen, for all my viewers out there that have been living under a rock for the last couple of years, how do they get to follow Braden Langley and Langley Outdoor Academies? Come on.
They go YouTube, baby. You know that. You watch a video with Bill Kirk at Washington Gun Law. It's obvious, like duh, with his great windows behind him.
I don't do that anymore. I'm in the studio now.
No, you should.
I know, I got it. No,
window's
because
great.
see, here's the deal. Back then, that was my old law firm. I was running $13,000 a month in rent. Okay. That sucked.
That's a little bit.
That sucked.
That's a little.
Okay. All right. And so now I'm in a studio. I'm paying $1,500 a month for a studio apartment.
That's a lot better.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
That's a lot better.
You know who else likes that?
Huh.
And Mrs. Gun Law.
Mrs. Gun Law.
Back over there. Yeah.
Well, so after you do that in his new studio, then you find Langley Outdoors.
Yeah. It's on the suggested
It's on
list.
YouTube. Yeah.
It is.
But
you're also on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter. I am on X. It is so much fun. I never thought I'd love X. I love it so much. I can be on there for
rather savage
hours.
out there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. You're not so unsavage yourself, sir.
I don't think I'm savage. I think I'm more like sarcastic.
Oh, well, okay. In that case, I'm just very succinct with my freedom views. I'm not mean.
Hey, listen, he's Braden Langley. It's Langley Outdoor Academies. Check out the channel. I meant it when I say it. I actually watch his channel. I really do. I think you got a very genuine, authentic presentation. Don't change what you're doing, man. You're really good at it. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you.
That's awesome.
All right, we'll catch you next time, guys.
First individual on call, and for whatever reason, if that goes through, we have actually 3 layers. So we have another and another. So if it continues to ring, it goes from one phone to the next to the next. So we're betting on our chances. The highly compensated team that we have is going to take that phone call. Mm-hmm. And then from there, they have that privilege, right? They have the attorney-client privilege and that right to share with them, our attorneys, of what just took place. We have a nationwide team of attorneys that's going to be able to reach out to our Arizona attorney to get them on the horn immediately. You know, we've had cases all over the country. Now,
You're not truly prepared unless you have Right to Bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com.